So today's class will see about parameter passing techniques. Anyone of you tell me what you mean by a parameter? We already learned about this. What do you mean by a parameter? Anyone of you? Parameter. What do you mean by this word called parameter? Yeah. Right. So parameter is nothing but simply I'll revise once again. Suppose in your main function, this is just a structure. Don't go in detail about the syntax and all. Okay. So in the main function, you have some statements. Let us not bother about those statements. And if you are calling a function called fun, for example, and in the fun function, you are passing any two values. Got it, all of you? And after that also you have some statements and you close this main function. And here you are writing the code behind this fun function. And you are accepting how many variables you have passed. Two variables. You need to accept two variables here. Those variables should be of the same data type like A and B. Whatever data type you have given for A and B, the data type should match here. And you have defined your own statements for this fun function. Got it, all of you? Now here the A and B variables are called as parameters. A and B are called as actual parameters and X and Y are called as formal parameters. Both are considered as parameters only. Another name for parameter is argument. Got it, all of you? So here these two are called as parameters. This is called as an actual argument and this is called as a formal argument. Now, whenever you are passing, that means you are passing the values from this value, this variable to this variable. Isn't it or not? Now, whenever you are passing the parameters, we have two techniques in that case. In the last class, we learned about functions can be written in four ways. In two ways, two ways where we have not mentioned any variables there. In such a case, there is no concept of parameter passing technique. But if you are passing any argument, to the function, then it can be done in two ways. So parameter passing can be done in two ways. So we have two techniques for parameter passing. Okay. Can you see me? Yeah. So we have two techniques for parameter passing techniques where how the actual arguments can be passed to the formal arguments. Got it, all of you? There are two ways. So note down the two ways, all of you. We have two ways of parameter passing. The two ways are, first one is call by value. And the second one is call by reference. So these two things, these two ways are talking about how the actual arguments will be passed to the formal arguments. Okay, so keeping that thing in mind, we have two ways of passing the parameters to the function. We are talking about the function that means call by value and call by reference. So let us learn in detail about these two things. Okay, I'll remove this one. So the first thing we'll see, that is call by value. Now, in call by value, what happens is, whatever actual arguments you are passing, that will be simply copied into the formal arguments. Okay, so for your understanding, let me first write down the code first. and then we can see the difference of this call by value and call by reference. But here make a note, all of you, whatever actual arguments you are passing, that will be simply copied into the formal arguments. Note on that one, all of you. Values of actual arguments will be copied into formal arguments. Okay, so for your understanding, what I'll do is I'll take one example and then it will be more clear for you. So to do this task, what we'll do is let us perform swapping of two numbers. Do you know what you mean by swapping of two numbers? We will be taking two variables. For our understanding, let us take one example called swapping of two numbers. What do you mean by swapping of two numbers? A value we are considering initially, that will be some value, and then we are taking, let us consider the A value is 10, and then we are taking the B value which is 20. Now initial values are 10 and 20. Later on what happens is, after performing going through the logic, yeah, I'll explain. After going through the logic, A value will be 20 and B value will be 10. So this is called as swapping. Swapping is nothing but changing the values between the two variables. Right? So to do this task, let us use this concept called call by value, and there you can understand what is actual value and formal argument, actual argument and formal argument again. Okay? So let us see the example of this one, swapping of two numbers. So to do this task, what I'll do is, let me write down the code for this one. So we need to always start with hash include, all those things I'm not writing here because that is a normal thing. I'll simply start with the main function. Okay. Follow carefully, all of you. Now, what is the first thing we need to do? The first thing is we need to declare two variables, right? So let us call the two variables are A comma B. Okay. And we need to ask the user to enter the two values. So let us ask the user to enter the two values, or else in the program itself you can write down the code, write down the values for that variables. So enter two values. Okay. Or else shall I write the code in the, I'll write the code directly in the editor so that we can check the output parallel, right? Can you see the screen, all of you? I think you all can see the screen. Okay. So here I'll write the code so that we can execute and we can check the output. Okay. And then I'm declaring two variables. And then I want to ask the user to enter the values. So slash and y I'm putting is to have this more like in a structured way if you want to get the output. Okay. Enter A, B values I'm asking the user, and then we are reading the values. These things you all know. This is the basic thing. Right? So we need to store the first value in A and the second value in B. If I'm writing anything wrong, you please tell me. Right? Now, after reading these two values, what I want to do is just I want to perform this task by using a function called change. My user defined function name is change. Okay. And to that change, I am passing the values called A and B. Okay. What are the values we are passing? We are passing the values called A and B to the function called change. and I am closing this main function here. Later on, I'll write the statements, whatever required here. Later on, I'll write. Now, I need to close this main function. Remember, in the last lab, you all have done a small mistake, like in the function itself, you are writing another function. That should not happen. Always one function should be closed, and then only you need to open the another function. So what is the other function now? We have the other function called change. Right, my function name is change, and to this function I require two variables, a and b. So let me write the two variables. You can use the same variable name a and b, or else you can use different variables. So like this you are writing. I hope you all are understanding. Now I want to perform the swapping of these two numbers. How to perform the swapping of these two numbers? I think you all know the logic behind this one. Let us take one variable called in t, and then first t will be holding the x value, and then x will be copied with the y value, and then y will be copied with the t value. Isn't it or not? So this is how you are swapping the values. Now you can write printf swapped values are a equal to %d, comma b equal to %d, and you can write x comma y. Here we don't have any written statement. So if you don't have any written statement, we need to write here void. Is this code clear to all of you? Now here a and b are called as actual arguments, and x and y are called as formal arguments. And how the program will be executing? Always the program will start from the main function, right? And after this main function, from the main function, it will come here. We have declared a and b values, and it will be asked the user to enter a and b values, and that will be stored in a and b respectively. And then we are calling a function called change ab. And then once it is called, the control will go to the function where it has been defined. It will come here change, and whatever a value is given, that will be copied to x, and whatever b value is given, that will be copied to y. So that means the values whatever a is there, that will be simply copied into this x. So this technique is called as call by value. That means we are calling this function through the value. The values will be actually copied. Now let us consider a value is 10 and b value is 5. Then what happens? X value will be 10. Why? Because a value will be copied into x, and b value will be 5. That will be copied into y. So x value will be 10 and y value will be 5. And it goes through this logic. And after performing this logic, x value and y value will be swapped, and you will be getting the swapped values. Right? Now what we'll do is, always you remember the function prototype. Whenever you are using any function, you need to write down the function prototype. So what is our function prototype? Our function return type is void. My function name is change, and it requires two variables, and both are of int data type. You need to write down this function prototype always. Is this clear to all of you? Now let us run this program. Is this clear to all of you? Is that code clear to all of you? Yeah. Now let us run this program. How to run this program? First you need to compile this one. So Alt F9 is the shortcut, or else you can go to the compile, and then you can click this one, or else Alt F9 can be clicked. So compile this one. If any errors are there, syntactical errors are there, that will be displayed here. No error is there, that means no syntactical error. So you can press any key, and then you can run your program. Run is nothing but you can go with the shortcut of Control plus F9, or directly you can run your program. So run is nothing but it will be asking the user. It will redirect it to your output screen. Now it is asking you to enter two values a and b. Let us give a value as 10, use space, and then b value as 5. A value is 10, b value is 5. We have given that one. and I have clicked the enter button. Now to check the output, what is the shortcut key? Alt F5. Note down all of you. Shortcut key is Alt F5. Now you can check. Even though you have given A value as 10, after swapping A value is 5 and B value is 10. Got it, all of you? So this is how. What do you mean by this one? Values are copied from actual arguments to the formal argument. This is called your actual argument, and this is called your formal argument. Is this clear, all of you? Is this code clear to you all? Understood, all of you, how we have done swapping of two numbers, actual arguments to formal arguments? Understood how actual arguments are copied into the formal arguments. But here, I want to tell you people a small difference. Follow carefully, all of you. Suppose A value is copied into X and B value is copied into Y. Now here, after this change function, follow carefully, all of you. After this change function, whatever you do here, in this complete code, whatever modifications you do, that will not affect your A and B values. To understand this one, what we'll do is, let us write one printf statement here. Printf in main, to understand, to have more understanding in the output, slash and I am putting in main A equal to percentage D, B equal to percentage D, comma A, comma B. Now, can any one of you tell me what will be your output? Now, here, I'll add one more. I'll add one more statement here. Printf before swapping A equal to percentage D, B equal to percentage D, comma A, comma B. Observe carefully what I am doing here. What I have done, I have written a printf statement here. First, I am asking the user to enter AB values. I am reading those two values. After reading those two values, I am printing a statement like before swapping. That means whatever AB values you have given, that will be simply displayed here. Right? Now, after that, I am calling the function called, what is the function? Change. Now, the control will go here. And from here, the control will be executing all these statements. And then you will have a printf statement. What is this printf statement? Swapped values are, or in change function, swapped values are like that. You will be getting the values like this, and then after executing all these statements, the control will go back to the next statement, that is your printf statement, and you will be getting this output. Now let us write one more statement called CLR SCR, so that the old value will be removed. And whenever you are writing CLR SCR, you need to use okay. Is this clear, all of you? CLR SCR stands for clear screen. That means whatever old output is there in your output screen, that will be completely erased, and you will be getting the output for this program execution. So let us run this program. So first you need to compile. Alt F9. Some errors are there. What is that error? Printf. Okay, I have written spelling mistake here. Print. PRINT. Okay, Alt F9, there is no error. Control F9, enter A, B values. So I will be giving 10 and 5 values. So to check your output, you need to give Alt F5. So you can see here we have given before swapping A value is 10, B value is 5. In change function, swapped values are A equal to 5, B equal to 10. But if you can observe here in the main function, even though we have performed the swapping, but it has not reflected the original values of A and B. See here, the same values of A equal to 10, B equal to 5 is retained in the main function. But we have done swapping in the swap function, in the change function. There we can see the swapping of A value to 5 and B value equal to 10. But in the main function, the original values are as it is. Observe here, even though you have called this change function here, it is not reflecting whatever changes you have done in your change function, that is not reflecting your main function variables. That means here you need to understand one thing. Here you need to understand one point. What is the other point? What is that point? Any changes in formal argument will not affect actual arguments. That is what we have observed. Any changes, that means in your first method, whatever we have learned now, any changes you are making in your formal arguments, X and Y are called your formal arguments. Any changes that you make in your formal arguments here, that will not affect your actual arguments in your first technique, that is call by value. That is what we have observed. If you check here, we have performed swapping in the change function. So that's why we got A value 5 and B value 10, because we have used the technique called call by value. A value will be copied into X and B value will be copied into Y, and we have changed X and Y values, and that will be affected only in that function. If you come back to your main function again, you will be getting A value, B value, original values only. Why? Because in your first technique, the values of A will be copied into X and the value of B will be copied into Y. That's it. So any changes we'll be doing here in X and Y will not affect your A, B values. That means any changes in the formal arguments, that means X and Y, will not affect the values of your actual arguments in your first technique, which is called as a call by value. Got it, all of you? Any doubts in this? So these things you need to understand. These two steps. What is the first thing? These 2 points you all remember. Values of actual arguments will be copied into the formal arguments, and any changes that you make in your formal arguments, in our case it is X and Y, will not affect your actual arguments in case it is A and B. Any doubts here? Is this clear to all of you how call by value is done? Call by value. Clear, all of you? This call by value is also named as pass. The other way it can be called as pass by value. Some textbooks follow this notation, some textbooks follow this one. You can say call by value or pass by value, but both mean same, where in the first technique call by value, the values of actual arguments, only the values will be copied, and any changes in the formal arguments will not affect your actual arguments. I hope you all are clear with this. Okay, so in the next class, we'll see about call by reference, where you can observe the difference between the call by value and call by reference. I hope you all are clear with this call by value concept. Today's class.